Hello again, this is Joseph Azizalahov, the author of the book Metaphysical Maxims. I'm going to continue very briefly today on the topic of ethics, because I think ethics is 50% of the holy science of the eternal quest for truth, not less. Ethics is more important than being merely saturated with being, or being able to be aware of your every motion at all times and in all places. The theory of the New Age metaphysicians, as well as the many of the yogins, it may be correct, which is that through meditation we achieve higher levels of consciousness. We achieve a greater space between ourselves and our emotions, and we can actually watch ourselves from, as it were, like almost like a third eye. And the theory is that that can lead to ethics. And that is ethics, because we all conceive of ourselves as one. We're part of the one. We're the same as trees. We're the same as animals. We're all part of the being of the universe. What Schopenhauer called the will, or the energy which grows us and develops us. There's no I. There's no I in any of this. I mean, we're just floating in emotions and feelings. So there's no I in the dog, and there's no I in the tree. There's nothing. We're all struggling to survive. It's a struggle to survive. It's a struggle to live. It's a struggle not to get hurt, in life. And when we get hurt, we feel really, really disempowered. So, again, the eternal quest involves this desire to limit the will somewhat so that we could actually become conscious. Does that lead to ethics? In many cases it does, because if a person can develop tremendous awareness of being and the fact that we're all the same, that I'm the same essentially in my being as all other finite modes, as Spinoza says, under the attribute of thought or extension. If we're all the same, we're all part of this undercurrent of energy which creates us, grows us, and decays us ultimately. Well, we're all in the same boat, and we should love each other. We should see ourselves in other people. Absolutely. I mean, this is it. If we can get to it, we see that there's no inside each person is us. We're the same thing. This is the being that is in us all. But we're not heading in that direction. This is the position I took in my book. We're going the other way. We do see some new thought coming up, but we've had this new thought before. For example, Mary Baker Eddy held sway with Christian Science, the science of mind, held sway in the United States for 60, 70 years. There were churches all over the place. People were going there, they didn't go to doctors. It's a healing church. Large masses of American Christians were members of this metaphysical kind of esoteric church. They're no more. There's only a few scattered remnants. We had one here near where I live. I saw one when I moved here in 1998. It's been taken over by another church. We used to have the Christian Science reading rooms. There's just scattered remnants around the country. The little storefronts are they're less and less. That's a sign that of a failure of the movement towards enlightenment among the masses of society. What we have is a big problem of ethics, and while I would agree that if we were all able to understand Kant's categorical imperative that we should all act for every man, that we should act under a universal law, that we should all try to act in a way that we would expect others to do to us, if we could all really live that way, and if that could be inculcated, I welcome it. I welcome inculcating some of the notions of being in the kindergarten and nursery schools. Montessori worked on that to a certain degree, and I agree we could do that. But we also need to inculcate virtue. This was misunderstood by all of our philosophers for the last hundreds of years in the West. And they misunderstood the Stoics, and they misunderstood what they were driving at. And basically, there was a critique of Christianity, and it was just annihilated all values. And this was welcomed by our educators. And that's why we're in the pickle we're in now. It's almost as if they figured just through reason alone we could sit down with people and just talk about the importance of acting in ways that would be beneficial to yourself and to other people, and then you sit down with them at any age, even when they're in the teenage years, and they're going to go, yeah, right on, I'll do it. It's just not happening. And we have to prove our theses. We can't just live in terms of wishes that everybody should wish to be a certain way. We have to falsify what we see. We have to see whether it's true or not. Whether our theories are true or not. We have to do social science exactly the way the sciences are done. This is what Karl Popper said. We have to apply the same standards. We can't just say Marxism for everybody is a wish. It's a wish that the next time out it'll all be good, and the next time out there won't be a Stalin who takes away the power from Lenin. That we'll get it right the next time. This is not science. This is nonsense. So what we need is ethics in the schools in the form of proverbs, and I hope that everybody can understand that. This is the only way to counteract the direction in which society is going. And this is the true enlightenment of society, is to be able to find a way to find a series of maxims or parables or whatever you want to call it. You could call it proverbs, what we could give to the kids, which we could teach them why it pays to be good. It pays to be good. It doesn't pay to be bad. We have to teach, this is what the Stoics taught. We have to teach about correct weights and measures. We have to teach about why, if you open a store, for instance, and you cheat people, you're going to fail, In the long run, that's a failure. And we can also try to develop greater, higher levels of consciousness. But organized religions are very strong today, and they all have their own perspective. And the notion among the New Thought thinkers and the New Age thinkers that these people are going to just give up their particular religious beliefs in order to want to develop a new religion, I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's happening at all. Maybe, I don't even know if it'll happen in 200, 300, 400 years. Besides which, I don't think it's sufficient to really give us the kind of ethics that we really need in order to have standards that people can live by, so that we don't have the kind of violence that we have today against one another and in relationships and so forth, and divorces and all the pain that is occurring. This is extreme unconsciousness. Talk about raising our level of consciousness. This is extreme unconsciousness. Abortions, for example, is to put yourself in a situation where you might have to have an abortion. That affects the soul. An abortion affects the soul. Women may live with guilt about that for forever. They may never overcome it. That's why I believe, just a footnote in closing, that a movement towards celibacy is actually a pretty good movement that we see somewhat of now in the West. I think it's a very useful thing, and I think it's a very good thing, because relationships, as wonderful as they may be, are fraught with danger. There is the danger that you could bust up, break up, find your mate cheating with somebody, and then you could have a trauma. You could have a very bad trauma. I'm talking about really, really bad stuff that could actually hurt you. I'm not talking about the shocks that I mentioned before, that there are shocks in life. I'm talking about having too many shocks, perhaps, and developing distrust. A man could develop distrust for women. A woman could develop distrust for men. This is unconsciousness. We're not conscious of what we're doing. So that's why I suggest that we need to go back to a sterner ethics, which we could develop along the lines of perhaps Maria Montessori method, which we have, when we can add on to that, where we can develop these kinds of things for society as a whole. So that's my position, and my position is that being alone is not going to do it, and higher consciousness alone for the masses is not really practical. It's because I think the number of people that are interested in higher consciousness today is not greater than it was 50 years ago under Yogananda, when Yogananda came to the United States, or under Mary Baker Eddy. In fact, I think it was there was a much greater interest, perhaps, at that time in New Thought philosophy and the notion of going into the spirit. So it doesn't key in to the masses of people. But one thing I think we could all agree upon is that ethics, morals, the moral truths of the sacred texts are essential for our children, particularly since the collapse of the family in the West. Absolutely essential. Thanks for listening.